everybody, Dave here, Hidden Off Grid. Welcome back to another video. In this video, I want to talk about an update to my #1 risk in early retirement. I did a video. You can look at that video up here if you want. It's one of the most popular videos that I've done so far. So, let's go ahead and get started.
Yes, welcome back to another video. Sorry I missed last week. I was traveling, I was on the road last week. I was in Seattle, drove 2 days to get there and 2 days to get back, and I stayed there for a day. You know, I had to go to a dentist, so no, I didn't drive out there just for the dentist, but that is where my dentist is, so I will be finding a dentist here. So yes, this video, I wanted to do an update on my #1 risk to early retirement, or my early retirement, which is going to be in April or May of next year, 2022. So in that video, which I linked just earlier up here, I talked about it, and I had some real estate flips that I was working on and they turned sideways. The business partner I was working with, he just decided to wash his hands of everything. It's kind of a long story, but if you want to kind of know more details of the story and the back, story to that and whatnot, look at that video. So, but there is an update. After about 15-16 months now of going through foreclosure on 2 properties, finally there's some light at the end of the tunnel. So that's good news for me because I'll be getting some cash back. But it was a long process, and I can say that COVID is part responsible, I guess, for how long it's taken. But I learned a lot through going through this process, the foreclosure process. Now, I was the person that foreclosed. I wasn't being foreclosed on. One of the properties had 2 loans. In addition to, I was a primary, I was the first lien holder. There was 2 other lien holders as well. And then there was another property I was doing where I was the first lien holder, and then there was a second lien holder for $35,000. On the other property, there was a second lien for like 12 grand. And then there was a third lien. I don't know who would put themselves in that position, but that person lent out like $37,000. So unfortunately, every one of those people got wiped out. So I went through foreclosure, they all got wiped out. The properties finally went through auction last week, and they are getting back like $181,000. And then, all told and said and done, God, I can never get that right. All said and done, I'll be losing about $8,000 in total. Okay, so when I talked to this attorney, I don't know, over 2 years ago now, or not quite 2 years ago, a little over a year and a half ago or something like that, they told me it was going to take 6 months and it was going to cost about $5,000 per property. But that was not right. Obviously, it took a lot longer because of COVID. Ron DeSantis, which is not really his fault, but they did stick a moratorium on evictions and foreclosures. I didn't have to evict anybody, or evict. It's not evict. I did not have to evict anybody. Evict. I think evict is correct. Did not have to evict anybody because these properties were empty, vacant. They're going to get flipped, right? So they weren't being rented out. So finally, they went to auction. And I thought for sure they would not be able to sell at auction because I thought they would have to go for what the judgment was. And the judgment is a lot higher than what the properties are worth. So I'm like, they're never going to go at auction what these properties got the judgment for. So I got lucky enough that I found out that on the auction site, they'll let you set a max bid for the plaintiff bid. And that's exactly what I did. I felt like I could set one property for a couple, I don't know, maybe probably like $20,000 less than what I could probably get an offer on it for. And that's what I did. But even still, it got that bid, even though it got that bid for basically what I put the minimum bid or the max bid for the plaintiff was, I still actually made money on that property. I still made roughly about $10,000 or something like that, maybe $15,000 on that property. And then the other property I set like $20,000 less than what I could probably get an offer on that house for. But you have to understand, If I got an offer on these properties for said amount, you know, let's just say it was $69,000. Love my 69, right? $69,000. I would have to have it up to dated, make sure that all the back taxes were paid and all of the other liens were paid, including all of the fines for the local city code enforcement. So that would cost me like $15,000, right? I got to go to court. I got to get them reduced. I got to pay the back taxes. So by the time I go ahead and do that, plus the time to find a wholesaler, which I already had lined up just in case, I would end up right where I would be anyway, right? With sticking a, you know, like a $45,000 or $50,000 max bid on it. So why not just put those max bids down low, have somebody buy them, and then I don't have to deal with the back taxes. I don't have to deal with the city code enforcement or anything like that. I don't have to deal with the whole time. You know, what is it I'm trying to say here? I don't have to deal with like the unknown of how long this is going to take to resolve in time. I might have to fly out there, I might have to drive out there, I might have to stay out there a long time. But, you know, so I just decided to set the bids down low and let the chips fall where they may. Take a $20,000 loss if I have to, and I can make that $20,000 back. If I get the money back, I can make the money back pretty easily. And, you know, by the time I fire, it's gonna like another 8 months away. I can make that 20 grand back in 8 months, right? So I just decided to set the max bids on the plaintiff side pretty low. And one of the properties went for literally $100 over what my minimum, I keep saying minimum, maximum bid was. The other property went for $10,000 more than what my max bid was. So that was a huge plus in reducing the losses. And by the time all the expenses I calculated coming out with attorney fees and all the other things you have to pay, which I'm going to talk about here in a second, because it was not, you know, known to me and it wasn't really brought up by the attorneys. And I'm going to talk about that here in a second as well. I will end up taking about a $7,000, $7,000 to $8,000 loss instead of that 20 grand. So that is great. I'm going to get $180,000 back. I'll be able to make that $7,500 back real easy in the 8 months before I fire. And I don't have to deal with paying back taxes. I don't have to deal with dealing with the code enforcement. I don't have to deal with, you know, the lawyers even more, because they charge you for every little thing. It's like, you know, it's like going into a hospital and getting charged for a Band-Aid, $100 for a Band-Aid. That's an attorney for you. And they told me it was going to be about $5,000, you know, expenses paid, blah, 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 per property. No, it ended up being like $7,500 per property. And there's a lot more things in there that I didn't know I had to pay, like the publication fees. You got to pay for the auction fees. You got to pay for the clerk fees. You have to pay for the les pendens, I think is what it's called, submission fee, which is like $900 per property. So all that stuff and combined is going to come out to about $15,000 for 2 properties over about 18 months. So I literally was, you know, don't want to even talk to the attorney, because every single email, it'll cost me like $50. So I just, you know, it's like radio silence on my side, unless there's something absolutely I need to take care of. So yeah, that's the update on the properties. Finally, they are going away. And I'm getting that money back, hopefully in the next week or two. Now, the only thing that could probably stop it at this point is somebody possibly putting a, what do you call it? I guess the person that the defendant in this case, all the other ones got defaulted, but the defendant in this case could try to challenge it, but there's no really grounds for them to challenge it. They're not going to do it. Why would they want to spend, you know, $4,000 or how much, $1,000 to try to defend it? And there's no grounds for them really to defend it. So most likely, in most cases, if there's a person, like say I bought the property, I live in there for 10 years, and the bank wants to foreclose on me, that could be a ground for somebody trying to defend that after the fact, right? I'm going to try to get my property back, you know, right before it actually goes to this person that actually bought it at auction, right? So there is people that could do that. In this case here, it makes no sense. The other thing that could happen is they could have a hurricane, because it is in Florida. or another thing is a house could burn down or something like that. I don't know how the person actually got the house or bid on the property could get the house back, but technically it hasn't changed title yet, so I'm technically still the owner of it. So if it burned down, I have no insurance on the properties, so I'm not the technical owner of the property. You know, I'm the lender. So anyways, that's the update. If you want to have, you know, if you have any questions, I learned a lot about the foreclosure process. And when I was renting properties out for a decade, I never had to evict anybody, so never went through that process either. And you know, I'm not a religious person, so I don't want to say thank Jesus on that or anything like that. I'm just so glad that I never had to go through that whole process of evicting anybody, because I think it's terrible to, number one, do that to somebody, but there's a lot of deadbeat people out there too that are just living for free, rent free, because of the eviction moratorium and all that, and they're literally screwing those people that own those properties, right? How are those people going to make payments to the servicer, right? So if they have a loan through a bank, how are they going to make a payment to the bank? You see what I'm saying there? The shit rolls uphill there, and it's not fair to the person that really owns that property, and these people that are deadbeats, because there's a lot of deadbeats out there. Now there's some people that just couldn't make the payments, and they probably got help from the government, or the good old government. So hopefully those people responsible made the payment, and you know, the shit did not roll uphill there. So luckily I didn't have to go through any evictions, and this is my foreclosure. I'm never, ever, ever probably going to own rental properties ever again, and I'm probably most likely never in my life ever going to flip houses again. If I do for some reason, I will be doing it on my own. I will be managing the contractors on my own. I'll be the general contractor, and I know all the process of, you know, the whole general contractor and the process of getting a house flipped. So I'm not, I'll be doing it on my own. So anyway, that's a lesson learned. I'm bringing it to you, so hope you can learn and not go through all those lessons. Honestly, the people that bought these properties got a hell of a deal. So they're going to make money. And honestly, I probably would have made about $100,000 to $150,000 had I flipped them. I just didn't want to deal with it. There's a lot of unknowns there. You got COVID going on, right? I'm wearing my N95 mask and stuff, so in my apartment. So, and I also wear that same mask when I'm driving. Just kidding. Anyways, until next time, please go ahead, like and subscribe, and we'll see you next video. Thanks for watching.